ISO 9001 process planning with specific reference to the banking sector is what we're talking about in this video. We're specifically talking about clause 8 and specifically 8.1 of ISO 9001, how that process flows in the service and transaction part of a bank and the banking sector. Stay tuned. So we've had a question come through to us here at Ask Best Practice from one of our colleagues that's following both me on LinkedIn and also our company page on LinkedIn. So if you haven't found us yet on LinkedIn, go check it out. Look for Best Practice Certification. That's all this stuff on our LinkedIn company page, and also look for me. My name's @KobeSimet on LinkedIn. I will put the handle in the description below. If you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, if you want a video like this one, then give us a shout out, ask the question, and we'll cover it for you. So we've struggled a little bit with this particular one to understand the angle that the question's coming from. So we're just going to talk about it from our perspective. Jack's here behind the camera. We've been having a chat about, it's obviously about the banking sector and banking as a customer. So I'll talk about my experience with the bank. Is I'm both a commercial customer and also a private. Now, I've got subtly different needs in both of those spaces. It just so happens that majority of our commercial banking here in this particular business is with the same bank as I am a private customer. That just makes my life a little bit easier, but we do use a number of different banks to do what we do here at Best Practice. And also I've got a few private banks that I use. But let's just talk about it from that perspective. And actually, there's a bunch of people following me on LinkedIn. So, and I know there's a bunch of you that comment on this stuff, and you do work for a bank. So this will be relevant for you guys as well. And you know who you are. So with regards to that, there's a few things here. Obviously, one of my biggest issues, one of my biggest risks from my perspective is, well, it's my money. It's my hard-earned cash. And that's me as a private customer. Over here in a commercial sense, probably not as worried. In terms of, you know, this is my whole livelihood over here, and I would feel incredibly violated if you guys lost my money. I'm giving it to you for safekeeping. But over here in the commercial sense, I'm not giving you money for safekeeping. I'm using you as a mechanism to transact with both my staff in terms of you know, their salaries and wages, our contractors, our suppliers, and also the customers. So from a commercial customer's perspective as it relates to a bank, we've got things like payments coming in, and we've got obviously payments going out. Now what's critical for me is that is a lot of work. And so as we'll move over to the process flow in a minute, but I need this stuff to happen really, really quickly and ideally instantly. So my staff, they want to be paid instantly. My suppliers, they want to be paid instantly. So when we've done all the processing in our office and we upload the spreadsheet to our banking portal, we want that stuff to happen straight away. And the facility that we're provided by our bank, that all happens instantaneously. So when we put a credit to one of our suppliers, we can call our suppliers, they can check their bank, and in most 80% of the situations where we're talking to our suppliers, that stuff's there straight away. Now, importantly, when we do that, the dollar amount here, it's very important that it's the same as the dollar amount over here. So we don't want you guys clipping the ticket on the way through. So we pay you bank fees to make sure that you're not clipping the ticket on the payments. Now, we are talking about a bank, we're not talking about a credit card. If that transaction was to be done with a credit card, obviously the credit card company takes a commission on the money that they're moving on your behalf backwards and forwards. So we are talking about a bank. So a couple of key things. One is obviously risk-wise or SWOT-wise, security. Now, both in the physical sense of the numbers that are on our internet banking portal, but also internally in terms of data and accessibility and that sort of stuff. So you guys have got some pretty big IT information security issues there, and also the security of the physical you know, currency that sits behind the accounts that sit within there. Speed is very important in the commercial sense. Accuracy over here, very, very important. Speed, maybe not so much for the private customer, but security would be absolutely, because these people here are storing their hard-earned cash. The commercial customer is using it for transacting, if that makes sense. So we don't use the bank as the method to store our profits, if you like. That's done in other higher yielding places and investments. But the customer, for example, that's going to be, yeah, to a certain extent they do use it to operate, but I know lots and lots of private customers that all their money's in the bank and they don't have investments. So security, speed, and simplicity. So I'm just going to focus on those things with regards to operational planning, security, speed, and simplicity. If you as the bank are making the life of these parties complicated, you won't have them as customers very long. Now, that might make your life more complicated internally, but if you can make it simple and fast and accurate, that's the majority of what these people are looking for. And certainly I'm giving you my advice as a customer. So let's go over here and have a look at a generic process. So we've obviously got the bank. We've got some stuff happening in terms of internal processes. It's pretty generic, but we've got obviously from a customer's perspective, we've got online files in terms of online information. We've got a component interface with all the different systems that the banks have. So you might have a little bit of manual process happening. There's certainly a lot less manual processes now than there used to be. And so we've got all these different component systems that are all part of the service delivery, you know, how the different systems bolt up to each other, particularly if you guys are doing other things. So in terms of the transaction time, we all know that some of you guys float money on the short-term currency markets. So you might take a day or two longer than usual to do the transaction. It's pretty common knowledge that a lot of that money is moved around, and that's how the banks in transacting have said, well, actually, we can sort of float, we can have this money floating for a period of time between, you know, for example, if I'm a commercial customer paying one of my staff, there's something happening in here, and everyone's saying, why is it taking 2 days? And it's because you guys are using that money while you've got it in your hand to make more money. So your industry is about to be significantly disrupted by cryptocurrency, because the intention of cryptocurrency is people are unhappy with what's happening here and they want the money to move between themselves. So eventually, if we want to call this Bitcoin, and Jack and I were just talking about Bitcoin, that will replace you over there, because these two parties can transact with a digital currency between each other and they won't need you. So if you guys really want to disrupt this particular industry, get on board with stopping this and making this stuff happen really quickly. Okay, generically, we're doing file uploads, then we're loading that into, say, for example, a bank table. We're doing reconciliation to make sure any information from bank A matches bank B and matches us as funds are moving backwards and forwards between the banks, because this could be bank A over here and this could be bank B over here, if that makes sense. And this is you guys in the middle. So we've got this reconciliation process, and then we've obviously got the transaction matching. Now, all that, for me now, as a customer, is all sitting on my portal, if you like. All displaying on my portal. Now, there's obviously some manual stuff that used to happen, and in some cases it does obviously happen, is we're obviously managing statements or a journal. And then we've got manual transactional inputs. So I send my son off to school once a week with his little bank book, and it's handwritten information or a little printed slip that goes into his bank book as he's banking his dollar each week of his pocket money. And so he's got the manual transaction process happening. Now, I'm sure there's a component interface that sits behind that manages it, but it's still for him a bank book and a manual transaction. Still goes part of the file upload, still the movement. And in that instance, it's cash that ends up being deposited and retained and then shown on his little portal. So I want you guys to be thinking about resource planning, and it's exactly the same as all the other videos we've done recently on process mapping. It's my 5 W's and an H. Let's just quickly talk in this scenario about the why with all of this. Why is this stuff? It's right here. It's security, speed, and simplicity. And importantly, we want to understand what can happen emotionally with these parties. And there's one emotion that we want to be very careful with, and that's the concept of making these people in this process feel violated, absolutely violated. Money is a very sensitive topic. It's a very emotional topic, and we want to avoid making them feel violated. So when you look at this process and you start to do something like a SWOT analysis, and that's very, very important, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I'd like to see you start with Does anything that we do at any of these steps, and your process could be different to this, but at any of the steps, any of your steps internally in your organisation, do they have the potential to make these stakeholders feel violated? And that's a good place to start in your weaknesses and your threats part of your SWOT analysis. And obviously there's other things that you can do. What would make them feel love, joy, and surprise? Now, obviously surprise, if they've got more money than they thought they had because you made a mistake and you deposited with your reconciliation wrong money to wrong account, of course they're going to feel surprised. So we do talk a lot about, with SWOT analysis, we talk about violation, and you can also have a bit of fun with this. That's part of this whole process, right? Don't take it too seriously because you want to do it regularly. You want to do this SWOT analysis, risk assessment, process analysis, maybe on a quarterly basis. We have a joke here in best practice. We call it love, joy, surprise. Love, joy, and surprise. So what we're talking about here is we want to try and avoid people feeling violated. They're our customers and our stakeholders. But we want to elicit particularly love and joy. And if you can do security, speed, and simplicity in this instance, you'll elicit definitely love and joy because people will compare you against the other people and it's a pretty flooded sector. You're going to get those opportunities. So back to all of our other YouTube videos, we've got the why. Now we've got our 5 W's and an H. So it's what, when, where, who, and how. It's our 5 W's and an H. What needs to happen? Where does it need to happen? When does it need to happen? Who needs to do it? How are they going to do it? To ensure that we're not making people feel violated, we're helping people feel love, joy, and surprise as part of this process, and that becomes your plan. So have a practice with it, keep it simple, keep it really basic. That becomes your operational plan. Why? To create these objectives, these promises that we made. What are the promises you made to your customers? You know, is it commitment, consistency, security, speed, simplicity, those sorts of things, but you want to think about this. So that's the checklist, that's the process flow. Your process might be different. That was just a generic one we thought we'd talk through. You want to think about your stakeholders. In this instance, this is very customer focused from a commercial customer perspective, private customers perspective. There might be some other stakeholders. There's obviously these other stakeholders here. There's the other banks. So we've got Bank A as a stakeholder, Bank B. You know, the other banks that you're dealing with as you do your transactions, they're interested in speed, simplicity, maybe accuracy. You know, if they're always waiting for you to do stuff, then they're not going to want to do business with you, and it's going to make life very difficult for everybody. So that's been our process flow analysis, operational planning. It does include some of the risk-based thinking parts of the banking sector and ISO 9001. If you want to see more videos like this, and we'll have a crack at your industry, it's what we do here at Best Practice, reach out to us, comment below the video. If you like this, comment below and give us a shout out and say you like it, give us a like. If you've got any comments, you think we've missed something, comment below the video and we'll come back to you. If you want a video for your sector, happy to shoot that. Once we get a few people commenting from the same industry, we put the videos together. Give us a subscribe, give us some support here on YouTube. That's what we love so that we can help you. When you subscribe, you'll get all our updates, all the great videos that come to you every week from us here at Best Practice. If you want some more great courses that are more in depth than this, go check out our training academy. If you'd like some help going step by step through this standard, this is ISO 9001, we've got a great course, ISO 9001 Essentials, in our training academy where we take you step by step through this standard so you'll get a detailed understanding of what the standard's intent is and be able to apply it to your industry. So go check out the training academy. We'll put the link in the comments below the video and we'll see you over on LinkedIn. We'll see you on Instagram. We'll see you right here on YouTube, right here at Best Practice TV. Bye for now.